This week, we're off to the subcontinent of India, and we're delighted to welcome to the Green Ginger Club Dolinman and Karie Potter. Now, Dolinman, you're probably the only bluegrass mandolin player in India. How did that happen?
So we live in a really old house. It's about 300 years old. This house we are in, and there were a couple of rooms which were locked up when I was a kid. I mean, no one lived in the whole house. I mean, there were lots of places which were locked up. And we popped open one of those places and found a really old, battered mandolin. And I think the story is there was a factory which mass-produced, very badly made mandolins in our house, and they were our tenants. And I got it fixed, and I thought it's a guitar at that point. And only when I took it to a teacher here, who was a guitarist, he said, "Oh, this is not a guitar. This is a mandolin, but I still show you some basics." And that's how I started on the mandolin, by accident, pure accident. I randomly searched. I mean, the first time I accessed internet in the year 2000, 2001 with a dial-up connection, I looked up mandolin and music. Mandolin and music. I just searched that. Bill Monroe came up. And to be honest, I didn't like it. I didn't like the mandolin, like the singing. I didn't like anything about it when I heard it the first time. And another album which came up was, David Grisman's a compilation album called The Life of Sorrow. That's a great album, and it's been my favorite through and through. And I really loved the mandolin on that. And I was like, what is this mandolin? I've never heard the mandolin being played like this. And that's when I dived deep and I searched more, read up about his influences, and it led me back to Bill Monroe. And after a while, I really started enjoying Monroe's music. But it all happened through David Grisman's mandolin.
Now, I've seen videos on YouTube of you playing a Bill Monroe type riff to a Bengali folk song. What made you do that?
Actually, it was a random jam which I was doing with Vasudev Das Baul. And I was making him hear Southern Flavor by Bill Monroe. And he suddenly broke out and started singing this Bengali song called Kalia. And we were like, wow, that works perfectly together.
He's a baul, he's a wandering minstrel of West Bengal, and he is an example of the folk musicians, who perform in, open spaces, public spaces. There is a huge culture of them performing on train rides. So, every time we take a train down to Shantiniketan, we will have these bauls singing, at the top of their voices, singing all these folk songs
in a train.
Bengal, in a train.
They are wandering minstrels, and they would sing in a train, they would sing on the street. So Vasudev Da is a dear friend of mine, and he believes in that tradition. I mean, he's a baul himself.
And it's also a philosophy, a principle of life, and the music is sort of emblematic of the philosophy of life that they believe in. So it's very spiritual, very metaphysical, but couched in everyday terms. So when you listen to a song, you think that it's talking about something, but actually it means something completely different.
So you really have to know the metaphors of those songs to understand the true meaning of the song.
Do people in India get most of their musical tastes from Bollywood movies, or from television, or from radio, or from gramophone records, or where do they get it from?
The easiest way to answer that is Bollywood is everywhere. It is on TV. It is what's being played on the radio most of the times. The music that is sold the most in music shops is Bollywood. In a big way, it's something. It's like a cloud over us. It's it is a it is a it's also a pity that it's mostly Bollywood that's around us, because it's a huge industry. It's a I don't know, maybe $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
The music production and the films and the reach of those films, and because of the reach of those films, that's the music that becomes popular. I mean, that's what people hum all the time.
Because all the media that you mentioned, television and radio, most of the private channels, they play Bollywood music. But I was a radio jockey for the National Radio Network for a few years, and we did have segments playing Western classical music or Indian classical music or folk music. So there are different channels as well, but Bollywood is the most popular, and the most accessible, and that's also an amalgamation of different genres of music. So you will have glimpses of Indian classical, or you will have riffs from country music, and so that's how it filters down to the general, the mass. So that's also the appeal of Bollywood.
So add to what she just said. Lot of folk songs, as for instance, a lot of Bengali folk songs became popular because they came into Bengali film, and so that became accessible and that became popular. And then people went back, oh, that's a folk song, So that's how it works mostly here. But of course, like there are small pockets where people have small folk festivals in villages, which is playing, folk music of that region, or folk music from around that region. There are fairs, country fairs, where people go for entertainment once or twice a year. The music that is mostly played is music from that region, and most of the live music that's being played in the stage of that fair is probably musicians from that region.
Now, Dolinman, you don't only play bluegrass music on the mandolin, you've also put it onto some of the traditional Indian instruments as well. And you've also adapted some Bengali songs into a bluegrass style.
So the Bengali song I did with the Dotara, the Dotara, which is this one. So that's a song called Aage Janle Tor Bhanga Nauka Chortam Na, which is a song of it's a song of a boat and the river. I mean, it's a river song. Okay. It talks about a broken boat, and it says that if I knew the boat was broken, then I wouldn't have taken that boat. So that's the song. And in that song, I kind of try to play a bluegrass riff of a song, Jenny Lind, which actually Bill Monroe's uncle, Uncle Penn, used to play that on the fiddle. Yeah. When Monroe was young. So he grew up listening to that fiddle music, and that's the song I play in this Bengali song as an interlude.
সাথ এক না হে বোঝাই করতাম না, আগে জানলে তোর ভাঙা নৌকায় চড়তাম না। সৌ 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 দরিয়াতে ডুলে দেও, সৌ 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 দরিয়াতে ডুলে দেও, এই তুফানেতে কেউ গাং পাড়ি দিও না। ওরে বিষম দরিয়ার পানি দেখে, বিষম দরিয়ার পানি দেখে ভয়েতে প্রাণ বাঁচে না, ওরে ভয়েতে প্রাণ বাঁচে না, আগে জানলে তোর ভাঙা নৌকায় চড়তাম না। ও আমার দরদি, আগে জানলে তোর ভাঙা নৌকায় চড়তাম না।
We were having this band called No Strings Attached, which had a guitarist called Sujoy Chakraborty. I mean, he was there. We together founded the bluegrass band called No Strings Attached. And we were always looking for someone who could sing, sing well. So in that hunt, we kind of, chanced upon Nobonita.
Bluegrass in Kentucky, Virginia, where the two
She mostly sings rock and metal. But she's open to trying new things, and she wants to explore other music. So we met up, and I sent her a couple of songs, and she picked them up in very quickly. I mean, in a week's time, and I was like, wow! I mean, she can do this. Firstly, the band No Strings Attached, we kept it kind of flexible. That's why the name No Strings Attached. Because of the fact that firstly Shuja was not here, I was in Calcutta, Nobonita was here. For some time we were just doing music in Calcutta without Shujoy, and he was left out most of the time when we were doing shows.
We had Kostov joining.
We had Kostov joining as a guitarist.
If you say you had lots of gigs and you're doing touring, what were the venues? Where were you playing?
Mostly festivals. We were playing everything. We were playing festivals, corporate events, weddings, anything that came by. And India has lots of music festivals now.
Yeah.
And if you have, I don't know whether you got a chance to listen to Fiddler's Green, but we did a lot of Indian music. We also did some Bollywood music, which was in the style of, which was not really in Bollywood style, but we were adding some bluegrass licks in it. we were arranging it in a new way. We were doing a lot of Indian traditional music apart from other folk traditions. Fiddler's Green was about bringing different influences into one band.
Funnily enough, this is actually a almost 200 or 250-year-old song from Goa, and the original song is like this.
And it was more like a jam band. We kind of really jammed our way through lots of songs, and people really loved us. People really loved us, so we kept.
I want to go and hear a gig now. I want to go and hear a gig. I mean, can't you come over to England and play? Just on the bluegrass is such international music now. I mean, there are little conclaves of bluegrass players all over the world. John sent us some stuff from New Zealand. An old school friend of Louis and I's. Where was he based, Louis? Eugene?
Yeah, Eugene was with a Dutch band called, I'm afraid, the Sons of Navarone, who were actually voted the best bluegrass band in Europe.
Also, I believe Japan, very, very big in Japan. Mind you, what isn't big in Japan? But the question I actually wanted to ask was, are you kind of in touch in one way or the other with that international bluegrass community?
I am in touch as much as I can using the internet. We just did a jam with the California Bluegrass Association. They did a 3-day jam. Online jam.
Oh, right.
We did a small set over there. I did go to the US a couple of times with one time touring with my band Fiddler's Green through the US, and I met a lot of bluegrass musicians there. I did go to the Shasta Fiddle Camp, where I made a lot of friends. I did go to the Mandolin Symposium once, and there I met a lot of mandolin players. So I'm in touch with the bluegrass scene as much as I can, sitting here in India.
So where do you come in, Karie? What happens to you? At some point you leave being a disc jockey on All India Radio and decide you're going to join up and sing.
I sing for fun. I'm mostly a bathroom singer. I don't consider myself a singer, but I have been a part of his musical journey, ever since we met. And thanks to him, he's influenced my musical taste in a very big way. And I'm primarily a fashion designer. So my interest in the bands was, I would help shoot the videos and style some of the bands. So that's how I got involved, handle their social media channels and do the promotions. And then slowly, all these, so our home is basically a rehearsal pad for all the bands, and there's just phenomenal music happening. Before the lockdown, every other day it would just be amazing music, through the day. And some of that kind of brushed off on me. And, when he would rehearse, or when he would pick up a song, sometimes, he would need someone to maybe do a harmony or just sing along with him. And that's how I sort of came in. And during the pandemic, because we didn't really have any option and, he didn't really have a choice. So that's how we sort of, really started singing together. And most of our performances have been virtual. I've never really, I wouldn't dare to sing, on stage, but virtually, yeah.
I keep pushing her too. To sing. Everyone should be able to sing. I'm not a singer at all. And I started singing when I hum when I try to learn a song. And since I don't read music, it's all by ear. So I have to remember melodies by just humming them. And Another thing I would like to mention is I also have a full-time job, which is which is I almost have 3 jobs if you trust me. I mean, I'm in office 12 hours a day, working as a advertising professional, and I do music mostly at night and in the weekends.
If I gave you a magic wand and said, with all the influences you've had, if you want to put together a band, have you any idea what that band would be? Have you got a vision? And what kind of music would it play?
I would love to, continue doing, bong grass music. What we call bong grass, because it's something in. I really liked doing bluegrass music a lot, traditional bluegrass. But my vision changed a lot after I met David Grisman in the Mandolin Symposium. He just told me, there are lots of bluegrass players in the US, and they can play, fabulous stuff, but they cannot play a Bengali song, or they cannot play on a Bengali song sometimes. So, if you have, I remember it was a pretty international kind of student profile in the symposium. There was this one guy from China, and he could do polyphonics, throat singing. What do you call that? So David Grisman was like, why don't you do some throat singing on the bluegrass? That would be different. I mean, no one can do that. So since I heard that, I always I felt that it's a very powerful statement. I mean, if you have to be good at something and do something unique, I mean, it has to. I have an edge over what an American bluegrass player would have. I mean, if I can play a Bengali song with bluegrass, or make a Bengali song sound like bluegrass, I mean, that would be unique. And so, I think, if I given a chance, I would still want to find a fiddle player who knows the bluegrass tradition and who also knows the Indian tradition, because it's difficult to get someone who's just trained in bluegrass to get to do this music. So in an ideal situation, I would want people to learn bluegrass in India so that it takes up a unique form.
That's going to be quite a bit of a problem, because India is quite a big place, isn't it? And you want to bring somebody who probably can play what you're asking for, but he might live 200 or 300 miles away, and you've got to get together virtually before you can. And it must be so frustrating for you.
That's exactly why I'm not getting anywhere. I mean, with this vision of mine, it's just a vision. I'm still to find a banjo player. I'm still always on the lookout of on people who can play the 5-string banjo, or to someone who can play the bluegrass fiddle.
And have also got a working knowledge of Indian music as well.
That is easier to find. Here. I mean, someone who can play the fiddle, Indian classical fiddle, for instance.
Yeah.
Or someone who can play, a Bengali folk song on a banjo. But that's something that's already here in our music. I mean, you do have the 4-string banjo in Bengali music quite a bit, and that sounds pretty much like a Bengali dotara.
Yeah.
But I want a banjo player who knows the bluegrass idiom as well, so that he can incorporate some of that in
both. Put them both together, yeah.
But we've also had very serendipitous connections. For instance, we had a friend who actually came to India, who visits India regularly because he has a day job in a company that makes art supplies, and they manufacture in India, in the subcontinent. And he also happens to be a bluegrass musician, and he has a band. And that's something that we, found out while he was planning to visit for a completely different reason. And, now we are friends. So music has a way of popping up and, forming these connections in really amazing ways.
And also, like, very interesting. Like, I have a friend who I met here in a village in near in my region. He was doing a research on the Bengali folk music, an American guy who's doing research on Bengali folk music, and that's the music of this region. and he happens to be a fabulous bluegrass banjo player, and he was with Grisman's backing band at one point. So, so he's a fan. In fact, I bumped into him, and he was living in just 200 kilometers away from my city, and we would, while he was here, we had a ball. I mean, we would always meet up, like whenever we had a chance. We became great friends, and he's a fabulous bluegrass musician. So magical things like that do happen, like Karie was just mentioning.
के